For a moment, forget everything you think you know about the pyramids. What you are looking at is not a scene from a science fiction movie. This is an elevator, a stone elevator, powered only by water, 4,600 years ago. Stay for the next few minutes, and this entire machine will start to make uncomfortable sense. We are going to open up the world's first pyramid, tear through the rock beneath it, and follow the evidence for a hidden device that should not have existed. To understand why this elevator exists, we have to go back to the very beginning of pyramid building. This is the Step Pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara in Egypt. Built around 2650 BCE, it rises about 62 meters above the desert, with more than 2 million limestone blocks stacked into 6 distinct steps. It is the prototype. Before Khufu, before Giza, there was this. And behind it all was one man, Imhotep. In later legends, he is almost mythologized. A sage, a healer, even a demigod. Historically, he was something even more interesting. The king's chief builder, a priest, a physician, and essentially the chief engineer of the entire kingdom, sitting at the intersection of religion, politics, and raw problem solving. Imhotep's job was not just to design a tomb. It was to take a landscape, rock, river, sun, and flood, and turn it into a system that could obey a pharaoh's impossible demands. If anyone in that world was going to look at the Nile and think, we can turn this into a lifting machine, it would have been him. And in a few minutes, you will see why that idea may be more than just a story. Deep inside this pyramid, archaeologists found something that does not make sense. A granite sarcophagus and several massive stone elements, each weighing several tons, locked inside chambers at the heart of the structure. The tunnels that lead to them are tight, twisting, in some places barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through. If you try to push the granite back out through those corridors, even just on paper, you hit a hard limit. The blocks are simply too large. So we are left with a question that has bothered engineers for decades. How do you move multi-ton blocks into a space your corridors physically do not allow? If the obvious explanation fails, then the real story has to be stranger. You have probably seen the textbook story. A giant ramp, hundreds of meters long, snaking up the side of the pyramid. Tens of thousands of workers hauling blocks with ropes and brute force. It is a powerful image. But when you actually run the numbers, the ramp falls apart. A ramp tall enough to reach the top of Djoser's pyramid would need more material than the pyramid itself. It would leave massive scars in the landscape. We find none. And even if it did exist, it still would not explain the oversized granite elements buried deep within the core. If they did not drag them up from the outside, there is only one place left to look: inside. And once you start looking inside, the ground under the pyramid starts to change. In 2024, a team of civil engineers and archaeologists went back to Saqqara with a different mindset. Instead of labeling every strange structure ritual, they treated the ground beneath the pyramid like an engineering drawing. Using ground-penetrating radar and new surveys, they mapped a hidden world carved into the bedrock. Hundreds of meters of stone-lined channels, 2 massive underground reservoirs, and vertical shafts dropping straight down toward the pyramid's core. On old site maps, these features are scattered, disconnected, almost like noise. But when you redraw them with an engineer's eye, something changes. The noise starts to look like a network. In a moment, that network is going to turn into the blueprint of a machine. These were not random cracks or caves. Most of the channels were carved directly into relatively soft limestone bedrock and, in critical sections, lined with carefully fitted stone blocks. Where leakage would have been catastrophic, traces of a primitive plaster made from gypsum and ash have been found clinging to the walls. The gradients of these channels are incredibly subtle. In some stretches, the slope is less than 1%, just enough for water to move steadily, not enough to tear the system apart. None of this feels symbolic. It feels calculated. It feels like someone was tuning a hydraulic circuit in stone. Every year, between June and September, the Nile would rise and spill over its banks. The builders of Djoser's pyramid did not just fear the flood, they designed around it. Those underground reservoirs sit exactly where floodwater, captured and channeled, could be stored, up to around 4.5 million liters at a time, beneath and beside the pyramid. From there, a network of gently sloped tunnels guided the water toward the vertical shafts we saw earlier. Gravity provided the input. The rock provided the container. The Nile itself became the power source. In modern terms, they were turning seasonal overflow into stored potential energy. Now we are ready to go back into that elevator shaft. Imagine a vertical well, about 15 meters deep, carved straight down through limestone blocks inside the pyramid's body. At the bottom, there is an inlet where floodwater from the reservoir can be released into the shaft. Inside that shaft sits a wooden platform, built from thick cedar beams, sealed and braced so it can float without twisting. On top of it, a granite block weighing 2 tons is lashed firmly in place. When the water is released into the base of the shaft, it rushes in and begins to rise. The higher the water climbs, the more pressure it exerts on the underside of the platform. At a certain point, the force from below matches the weight above. The platform starts to lift, silently, straight up. And here is the twist. The same principle lifts your elevator car today. The physics behind this is brutally simple. In a sealed vertical shaft, water pressure increases with depth. That pressure acts equally in all directions, including upward against anything that floats. If you know the weight of your load, the cross-section of your shaft, and the height of the water column, you can predict exactly how much water you need to lift the stone. It is the same principle behind modern hydraulic elevators and car lifts. We just swapped water for oil and added steel and electricity. The Egyptians were doing the hard part without any of that. And this is where the story stops feeling like guesswork and starts feeling like engineering. If this system was so clever, why do we not see obvious hydraulic elevators inside every later pyramid? There are a few possibilities. As pyramid design evolved, builders at Giza may have shifted toward internal ramp systems that were easier to control and less dependent on the timing and height of the Nile floods. Some later pyramids stood on different geology, with deeper or drier water tables, making such deep hydraulic works riskier or less efficient. And then there is the brutal logic of history. Techniques are not always lost because they were bad. They are often lost because the engineers who knew them died, regimes changed, or a new generation decided, we have our own way. The stones remain, the method fades. And that is exactly why reconstructing this machine matters so much. So how do we, standing here thousands of years later, even begin to reconstruct a machine that no ancient text ever describes? We test. The 2024 team did not just draw lines on a map. They modeled the hydraulic behavior of the entire system. Using known Nile flood levels, channel dimensions, and rock properties, their simulations showed that the reservoirs beneath Saqqara could generate more than enough force to lift multi-ton blocks inside the pyramid. Not everyone in Egyptology is convinced yet. Some scholars argue that the channels and shafts could have served primarily symbolic or ritual functions, mirrors of the Nile in the underworld, pathways for the king's soul, not for stone. Others point out that we still lack direct ancient texts saying, "We built a water-powered elevator." That caution is healthy. Extraordinary claims should face hard questions. But even the skeptics admit something awkward. When you line up the geology, the hydraulics, the channel layouts, and the construction sequence, the engineering story hangs together a little too well to just wave away. If this was only ritual, it is the most over-engineered ritual channel network anyone has ever seen. It is easy to get lost in the mechanics and forget the people. Every block in that pyramid was touched by human hands. Measured, cut, hauled, set into place. 2.3 million times. Imagine standing in the half-finished shaft, torchlight bouncing off damp limestone, feeling the vibration as the water rushes in below you. You watch the platform rise, slowly, impossibly, carrying a block of stone heavier than a truck. Not with magic, not with steel. With an understanding of nature so deep it feels like cheating. These were not primitive laborers stumbling through trial and error. They were engineers, project managers, craftsmen, and observers of the natural world, turning a river and a rock into a machine that still stands 4.5 millennia later. And the more clearly we see that, the harder it becomes to underestimate them. The Step Pyramid of Djoser is not just an ancient monument. It is a reminder that human beings have been hacking the rules of physics for a very long time. Today, we use hydraulic systems in everything from car lifts to skyscraper elevators. We spend millions on pumps and steel and control systems to do what these builders did with gravity, water, and stone. For 4,600 years, the machine beneath this pyramid lay buried, its purpose forgotten, its parts mislabeled. Now that we have seen how it might have worked, there is one question left. If they could do this with what they had, what else are we still underestimating about the people who came before us? And what other machines are still hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to look at them? Not as myths, not as miracles, but as engineering problems we have not solved yet. If you want to keep pulling on those threads with us, subscribe to Timecraft. Tell us in the comments, which ancient structure should we dissect next? If you were the chief engineer back then, where would you try to hide your own impossible machine? Because somewhere out there, another impossible device is waiting to be found.